Hey guys, Pieguyrulz here, and welcome back to another Square Theory. So, why is it that SpongeBob, the character, can be so annoying at times and yet perfectly fine other times? We know that SpongeBob's character, well, part of it is to be annoying. He annoys Squidward, Mr. Krabs, Mrs. Puff, Sandy, Patrick, even occasionally, and Gary. He annoys pretty much everyone in the cast at some point or another. That is a part of who he is. When you combine just his over eagerness and his endless optimism and his penchant for making loud noises and not necessarily realizing he's making loud noises, he's annoying. That's a part of who he is as a character. His archetype as this, very representative of childlike wonder and happiness, and not necessarily being super considerate to the world around you. That's who he is, and that's great. That is an interesting character flaw to give him. And it causes for conflict in quite a few episodes. But SpongeBob the character should never be annoying to the audience. There is a major difference between having your character annoy the other characters in the show and having your character annoy us. As an audience, you're not supposed to be annoyed with, especially the main character. So why exactly is this? I mean, there's a lot of episodes that SpongeBob just acts completely, you get it. You're not annoyed by him. Why is it that there's just such a difference in episodes like Boating Buddies, for example, when he's just so annoying? So I have a few small points here before I get into what I think is the big point, the big thing that really just kind of is the deciding point whether or not SpongeBob will be annoying in an episode. So first off, for the small things, is the comedy. I say it a lot. If the comedy's working, everything else works a little bit better. If SpongeBob's antic was annoying in the middle of an episode that everything else was funny, even if the antic itself wasn't funny, you're not going to notice it as much because you're laughing, because you're thinking about the other parts of the episode. It's distracting you because that's the way good comedy works. If the comedy's good, it'll distract you from the poor plot points or, the lacking action scenes or the poor characters or whatever. Yeah. So next up, post-first movie, that's going to get awkward to say. His voice was pitched up, and that can cause some annoyance. It's not unlistenable, it's not, unbearable, but if you marathon the show like I do, the voice does get a little bit on the nerves after a while. And this is especially notable when you either watch an old episode, you watch Not Normal, where his voice is different for that episode, and the second SpongeBob movie. When you compare them, one is just, a bit more pleasing to the ears. And that's just like a little thing that adds up to a little bit of annoyance with the character. And speaking of the audio annoyance there's the crying and laughing that SpongeBob does. Now, these things they've been in the show since the very beginning, and there's nothing wrong with them inherently. It's quirky the way he cries and laughs. In fact, SpongeBob's trademark laugh is just like that's a big defining feature of his. That is the laugh. You hear that laugh, you know it's SpongeBob. But there's a certain moderation you need to do with these things. The writers knew SpongeBob's laugh was annoying. In a commentary track for the episode, I believe it was Plankton, they say they're actually testing out how long you could do SpongeBob's laugh before people became irritated with it. And you can see it in the episode where SpongeBob laughs and Mr. Krabs tells him to knock it off after a little while. They were testing the limits there because they realized there was limits. You don't want to annoy your audience. So, yeah, and this is something that was really ramped up in some of the post-first movie episodes. Stuff like, what is this? The episode that's displayed on the screen right now. A Flea in Her Dome, that's the one. There's a lot of crying in that episode. And it's like, in addition to the audio annoyance of it, it comes with a certain, all right, SpongeBob is sad, we get it, let's move on, but you can't move on, you're stuck just, crying, and, sometimes they try to put gags on it, but sometimes the gags just aren't funny, and so you're just kind of sitting there waiting for him to stop crying. He's being annoyingly emotional. SpongeBob's always emotional, of course, but he's kind of stuck on one emotion for too long, and especially, I guess, with the crying, because it is just, so SpongeBob is such a source of endless optimism. When he does cry, it's a little bit off-putting because you don't necessarily expect it, except for when he's being a big crybaby. But it's just like moderation. That's a big key. And again, this is a little thing. So let's get to the big thing. What I think is just, it's going to decide whether you find his antics to be annoying or not. It's justification for his actions. When you understand why SpongeBob is doing something, even if what he's doing is, weird or annoying or quirky in the context of the episode, if you, the audience, understand why he is doing this, you will not be annoyed by it. In Overbooked, for example, SpongeBob acts really weird around his friends because he's trying to cover up a secret. The secret that he's working for the three of them all on the same night. His actions are justifiable and understandable and noble. You're not sitting there thinking, why is SpongeBob running around and getting naked and doing all this stuff? No, you're sitting there like, oh man, the poor guy, he's going through all this stuff because he cares and he wants, things to be good and he doesn't want to disappoint anyone. That makes sense. That's logical. Compare that to Boating Buddies, where you don't understand why he becomes this creepy stalker that wants to touch Squidward's face and when you don't get in the mindset of the character, when you're not on board with their actions, when you don't understand why they're doing what they're doing, you're going to be put off by them, especially if they're doing something that is annoying. In Not Normal, he does weird things with Patrick, but he does them for a reason. The reason is he's trying to become weird again, and the reason why is because he wants to have fun again. That makes sense. SpongeBob putting on his clothes in a weird way in the morning. His reason for doing that is because, he gets the job done. That's just the way he does things. It's a quirky, but it works, right? SpongeBob ringing Mrs. Puff's doorbell constantly, despite the fact that she's already answered the door. There's no justification for that. There's no reason for that. So you're annoyed by it because you're sitting there like, SpongeBob, why are you doing this? Please stop doing this. You're being annoying. And I think that is the big difference. If you look at the episode Club SpongeBob, a lot of people don't like that episode, and I think the reason is some people just don't buy into the justification of SpongeBob and Patrick's actions. They think that obeying the magic conch is stupid. It's just a piece of plastic. Why are they doing that? Why are they being so cold to Squidward? Whereas other people, myself included, think that it's funny, think that the magic conch is this magic thing that just, it brought SpongeBob and Patrick all of this fortune, so yeah, they should keep listening to it. And it was a part of their club, so who is Squidward to come in and say that he knows better than the magic conch? And I'm not saying that the people who think the magic conch is just, a piece of plastic and SpongeBob and Patrick are being horrible. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I think that is the difference. I think that is what kind of makes or breaks this episode, and that comes back to justification. If SpongeBob's actions are justified in how he treats Squidward and how the entire actions unfold, you won't be annoyed by his behavior. But if you don't think it's justified, if you think that SpongeBob is acting fairly arbitrarily and with very little reason, you're not going to like the episode because the entire episode is hinged on that. I think that's why that episode is very hotly debated. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments if you think that I'm onto something here or I'm just completely out there. Special thanks to Jacob B for suggesting this topic through Patreon. Big thumbs up to that because this is an interesting one. It's kind of like why is Patrick a jerk sometimes? What makes him feel kind of justifiably a jerk or unjustifiably? It's interesting to kind of look at these things that each character does and see why it works sometimes and why it doesn't work other times. But yeah, with that, Pieguyrulz